So check those out. So who is up next? Is it?
It's Joy.
Joy. Joy Hurtado, correct?
Come on
Yes.
in.
Thank you. I'm writing a book called PRS, and this is a short excerpt from it called Our Cash Education. It will become a whole chapter. Thank you.
Closer to the mic, please. Good. Thanks.
Okay, is that better? Okay.
Maybe put it down a little.
Like that? Okay, thank you. When Arkash first saw a man bearing a patibulum, he watched, enchanted, as the captain carried the straight wooden yoke. He fixed his gaze on the wooden beam the man carried behind his head, supported on his shoulders, forearms raised, wrists bent forward, holding it in place as he trod slowly towards the rear of the courtyard. The last of the students to return from temple prayer remained in a trance-like state induced during worship, and stopped to stare at the man with the patibulum. The 15-year-old student of the Hyksos priesthood wondered why the elder needed the subject. The temple guards towered above the man, leading him forward toward a 14-foot-high square beam. The beam stood upright, supported snugly by a pole holding it steady. The subject reached the beam, and the guards removed it from the hole and laid it in front of Allah, the bearer of the 6-foot-long patibulum. They secured his wrist to the crossbeam with coarse rope, and instructed him to sit on the beam and lay back, as the guards on his right and left pulled the crossbeam up, and inserted a peg, extended 2 feet from the top of the beam, into a hole in the center of the patibulum. Aaron's ankles and feet were tied to the beam. He remained quiet, fighting back the panic that filled him. The quiet farmer and family man came to this state through no fault of his own. The man dropped the basket of produce on the ground in front of a passing Hyksos priest, and failed to use the correct language to apologize. The priest declared him guilty of negligence and imposed an exorbitant penalty a common man such as Ara could never afford. And so his fearful family watched silently as he was led away by the guards of the temple. The guards picked up the beam and inserted it into the hole. He groaned as the weight of his body pulled on his shoulders. The lungs were stressed as he could not support the torso, and so his breathing suffered. A small seat attached to the beam did not provide support. Tears ran down his face as he thought of his family and what would become of them. He knew there was no way out. He accepted death, for he did not fear it, but he loved his life and his family and his friends, and so he wept. As he wondered if the stories he heard about the other side were true, an uplifting, enveloping sensation surrounded him, bringing his attention to the soft murmuring sound behind his head. You are not alone. I am here with you, and I will stay to the end to ease your transition to the other side. Damio, Arya's guardian angel, whispered, hovering behind the cross, wrapping his big pale blue wing around Arya's entire body. I knew you would come. Arya remained in this position for the whole summer day and night, and through the next day until late afternoon before dusk, when Arkash returned. The instrument of degradation, death, and defilement held the answer to many questions the priest apprentice had about teaching belief. He quietly watched as the man hung from the patibulum, which in its position upon the upright post resembled the shape of Tau, a lowercase t, a letter of the sacred alphabet. This cross predates the crucifixion cross of the Romans. The patibulata, as Arkash was taught to refer to the bearer of the patibulum, approached death, and in a state of delirium began to confess to crimes that never happened, begging Arkash, who Ara believed to be a god, to release him. The victim begged for forgiveness for things he did: unfaithfulness to his wife, cheating at gambling, and other non-lethal misdeeds that he believed, in his altered state of consciousness, he paid for as he hung there. The dark earth-bound spirit hovering next to Ara impressed Arkash with the usefulness of the patibulum. The ancient female spirit produced a light gray aura surrounding herself and the cross with a cloud of dreadful despair. As she put her left hand above Ara's head and right hand on his heart, she spoke quietly into his right ear. You know you are not worthy of your wife. She has given you 5 children. Oregon's son, and you betrayed her and your children. You know you deserve this punishment. As she infused dark greenish-gray, fearful energy into Ara. Tecata's spirit body undulated slightly as the energy pumped out of her hands, and she appeared opaque and then almost sheer. A skilled metaphysician during her Earth time, Tecata excelled at energy manipulation and emotional injury, and today she infused Ara's soul with guilt, shame, and a deep urge to pay for his misdeeds or sins, quote-unquote, with his life. He became determined to devote his life to his punisher, who he believed was Arkash. Arkash appeared all-powerful, as Tecata infused the subject with the love of his punisher. As he moved closer to physical death, Tecata attempted to corrupt the faithful humility and love of deity contained in Ara's soul. Glancing at Demio, she murmured into Ara's ear, "Give me your love and I will ease your suffering. Give me your devotion and I will give you a place at the table of the gods." Tecata knew that even the best qualities can be bent to serve the manipulator, to change the will of the captive and remove his personal sovereignty. She continued infusing intimidating, domineering energy to encourage him to come to the other side as her servant. She stopped abruptly. "Angel, your work here is finished," she whispered, feeling Ara's life force diminishing. As Ara sighed long and loud, as his soul left his physical body, which convulsed once, and his head dropped forward and the body sagged. His soul exited through the crown, stopped above his head, stunned, as white light beams descended to await his decision while Demio floated above the cross near Ara. His spirit body appeared weak, faded and weak from the punishment. He emitted dark, smoke-like greenish-gray energy as his soul rejected Tecata's influence and he struggled to regain his true identity. Ara fought the fear and weakness that remained as he backed away cautiously to escape his torturer. He turned toward the two white light beings, the spirits of his mother and father, who embraced him and accompanied him away from Tecata and Arkash as Demio followed. Ara's choice to go to the farther reaches of the other side disappointed but did not surprise Tecata. There can be considerably more quote-unquote freedom on the other side to be who you truly are. True criminals embrace the power of the patibulum, learning to wield it or serve those who use it. Ara was not a true criminal. He was just a man, subject to the machinations of the sorcerers. Tecata provided punishment and education at the court of the Hyksos priests. Arkash's previous lessons with Tecata at the court taught him much about the powers of the energy field and how the manipulation of human energy fields function to control human behavior and thought. Ara provided the first live example for today's lesson. Tecata, why did the patibulata die so quickly? His strong, healthy body should have been able to endure much more, should it not? He had no strength to withstand what I put to him, as his prolonged encounter with the patibulum weakened him. Did you observe the strong, destructive energy I infused, Master Arkash? The guilt and shame produced great depression and fear, leading to weakness of body and mind. He did not fear death, but the pain and trauma to his physical and emotional bodies made him susceptible to attack by his energy fields. The patibulum is a marvelous instrument of persuasion and influence. Though released from a session, the patibulum remained vulnerable, for the trauma remained embedded in their souls, an important component of the program to manipulate and weaken the opposition. You have much to learn if you are to play the part you've been chosen for, and in time, you will learn everything you need to know. This cryptic explanation satisfied Arkash, for the powerful elders and teachers gave him an excellent education and a comfortable life, and he trusted them completely. During her Earth time as the most powerful court metaphysician, Tecata's seemingly unusual position of power and prestige in the male-dominated world of the Hyksos was bestowed easily upon her. A seer and clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, more powerful than any male available to the Hyksos, she influenced the king of the opposition, weakening him with negative energy infusion and telepathic communication, assisting the Hyksos to gain the advantages they needed to win the city. A member of the hidden sect of female Gaionim, a high level of the cult of Venus, and sister of the Brotherhood of the Ancient Lumos cult, she wielded the power of the female mystique as bringer of both life and death most expeditiously.
Joy right, Hurtado. The power of the female mystique. I love that.